Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel. And the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. And I got some more therapy for you. Actually, this probably provides me more therapy than it will for you, but we shall see. If you enjoy it, you'll let me know, right? And if you don't, you'll let me know as well. Well, what I propose in this video is that I used to be a stub nib guy. I mean, every pen I buy, I make sure I had a stub in it, either a 1.1 or a 1.5. And if it didn't, I would make sure that I would buy some from Goulet pens. I'd buy some from Edison, from Anderson when it still was in business, etc., etc. Stipula sold some nibs to me as well. And you know what? I would replace all my nibs. It was automatic. I wouldn't buy any pen if I had a choice without a stub pen, without a stub nib. And if I didn't have a choice because it only offered fine, medium, or broad, I would replace them eventually with other stub nibs. So there you have it. And I've evolved since. Especially last year, I became fond of the fine nib and the medium nib and the broad nib. But I thought I'd step back and show you my stub nib collection, if you will, or all the pens that I have. I inked. I'm going to show you right off the bat what it looked like before I inked all these pens. So there you have it. Those are all the pens that I washed one by one. They were some of them were crusty. I inked them for months and months ago. And, it gave me a chance to kind of just wipe everything clean, dry them all up, and then ink them up all once again. And that's what I'm offering. So without any further ado, let's take those pens, ink them with the stubs, and try them. Here is Fountain Pen Therapy's Stub Nib Collection. Okay, so now we're back, and what we're going to do is the following. Let's just, we'll take any pen, and we'll write some notes, okay? With regard to how I've summarized things. First of all, when it comes to stubs, we have to look at, steel, gold, and titanium. There may be others, but those are the only ones I've got. Okay. Second thing is, let's look at the standard nibs. And by standard nibs, we've got to look at Schmidt, BOCK, and JOWO. That's what I mean by standard, the standard German nibs. We can get rid of Schmidt because I'm not aware of Schmidt having any stubs. They may, and if they do, I don't think they do, but if they do, I don't have any. Next is in line, let's look at BOCK. Now, when it comes to BOCK, I'm not aware of they having any gold stubs. In terms of titanium, yes, they do have a what I would term a 1.1 stub. And when it comes to steel, and although more difficult to find the 1.1s, I believe they have a 1.1 and a 1.5 stub. At least I think I have some. So, and that kind of summarizes. And all of this is number 6 because I'm not aware of any number 8. So all of them are in fact number 6 size. When it comes to JOWO, they do have gold, and I believe it's a 1.1. Titanium, although I think they're working on some, I don't believe they have any titanium stubs. I'm sorry, I'm hiding my writing here. Let me just pull that up a little more. Okay. And when it comes to steel, and this is where I think I have to add number 5. Okay, so it's number 5 as well. Steel, in the number 6, I have 1.1 and essentially 1.5. There may be some exceptions at 1.9, and even there I'm not sure they're JOWO, just because I have some. And when it comes to number 5, they say there is a 1.1, although I don't have any. I know there's a 1.4 because I have several. That's essentially the summary, if you will, of the standard nibs. And then we've got all kinds of specialty nibs. No, then we're going to have brand stubs. And then we have special grinds. Okay, so that's where we're going to take a look at. So let's put that aside. And let's start with BOCK. So I'm going to put that pen away. Now, I'm showing here a BOCK nib. This is an old BOCK nib, but it's a 1.1, as you could see. It's got the old BOCK as compared to, do I have a BOCK 1.5 here somewhere? Yes. As compared to this, which is a 1.5, as you can see. They're a little more italic than cursive as compared to JOWO, as we shall see. So the first one will be, this is the BOCK 1.1 stub. And as we could see, fairly thin line and fairly thick. It's very much italic. By italic, I mean it's got got a kind of a straight line there at the tipping. It's not very rounded. You see it even better on this 1.5. You see how straight that cut is? Okay. In fact, this is the BOCK 1.5 stub. And of course, the difference is that you get a little bit thicker side stroke and much thicker. And bottom line is that you're getting an italic grind, if you will, with the BOCK stubs. Now, there are a titanium. This is the titanium stub, which I would say to you, it's a titanium BOCK nib, which has been grounded into a stub. I would say to you that this is a little more cursive. So this is the BOCK, and it's a 1.1 titanium stub. And as you can see, much rounder, and so more of cursive. I'm spilling somewhere here. Okay, it's rounded. There we go. So I think that completes the BOCK. Okay. Now let's look at JOWO. Showing you here, this is the only JOWO stub in gold. It's just a generic, not branded. I bought this on FP Nibs, but it is a 14 karat and it is a 1.1 stub. That's correct, a 1.1 stub. So let's start with JOWO. Immediately you notice that gold, it is round. So it is a cursive, not an italic. That's what I mean by cursive, just a little bit more rounded. The next is the steel, and I think you'll see it even better here. You see, this is a 1.1 JOWO standard nib. You see the tipping, how it is very much rounded as compared to a BOCK, which I'll put side by side, which is very linear, very cut, sliced. The JOWO is much more rounded. It's got rounded edges. So it gives you a stub line variation. So this is a JOWO steel 1.1. So you can still get round line variation, but again, very much cursive. Of course you can get, well, we will see that. Okay, so, and that's what comes in the standard, where we understand each other. That's what's standard, okay? You can get all kinds of, special grinds, but we're not there. The next one I want to show you is this is a 1.5, just a little bit bigger, okay? Now I'm showing you a Goulet Pens 1.5 standard JOWO. So this is the JOWO steel 1.1, and the downstroke is a little bit thicker. Okay, but again, we're very much dealing with a rounded rounded affair. Now, the next thing I want to show you is this little beauty. This is a 1.4. It's a 1.4 JOWO number 5 sized Edison nib. Okay, so they make number 5. So this is a JOWO steel. Mind you, they're all, well, it's steel. We'll mention it. It's 1.4, but it's a number 5. Cursive again. It's rounded. You find them, now this is just a JOWO 80, where I replaced the nibs, okay, just to give you an idea. Actually, it's a JOWO 80 mini. You'll find the same type of nib. Let me show you under the camera. This is an Opus 88 mini with a 1.4 stub. So this is a JOWO steel 1.4 number 5. Again, very much cursive. Okay, there you go. Okay, now, having said that, those are your standard nibs that you can, let me just take a sip of my coffee. There are several pen manufacturers that use JOWO nibs. In fact, I would say to you that most of them use JOWO as opposed to BOCK these days. Even Leonardo started with BOCK and changed to JOWO. I believe even Montegrappa eventually changed to JOWO. Although with Montegrappa it's a little bit unclear because it depends on the pen. But let's start with Leonardo. Leonardo, here you'll see the new, as opposed to the old BOCK nib, this is the first JOWO nibs that replaced the BOCK nib. It's a 1.1. You see the 1.1. You see the standard feed. Okay, you can recognize JOWO by that feed, as opposed to, let me just take out, show you a standard JOWO versus BOCK. You could recognize the JOWO is kind of the bulkier feed as compared to the feed that are BOCK feeds. Both plastic, but very different. Okay, so I have this Leonardo Furore Grande as a 1.1. So Leonardo, and this is a steel 1.1 number 6, and very rounded and very soft, very round. I would say to you, maybe even rounder than what you get in a standard. So I think they probably fine-tune it so that it is extra smooth. Very, very smooth. The next is this Leonardo La Fenice branded 1.5 stub. But when it's La Fenice steel, we're talking about JOWO. They're just imprinting or branding the nib. But this nib, they must do something to it, because let me just show you. This is the, I'm going to just make it bigger just so that you could appreciate. Leonardo La Fenice 1.5. It is absolutely delicious and very, very juicy. Much juicier, okay? Now I realized I didn't have a number. Where is my number 5 here? I missed one in the JOWO gang. This is a 1.5. I apologize here. Here we go. This is the 1.5. The Goulet was at 1.5. But it's a much thicker 1.5 than your 1.5 standard. So this nib is absolutely gorgeous, the La Fenice nib. Next, you have Delta, new Delta, that also uses JOWO nibs, 1.1. That's the new Delta branded nibs. Okay, so this is the Delta Dolce Vita 2.0, I believe they refer to it. This is a 1.1 stub. And as you can see, it's finer. It's a kind of a finer line. So again, they must do something to it. Very smooth. But, you know, they tune it to their specifications. The next one is this Joya. This is the first generation branding of Joya. They've changed since, and I'll show you in a second. This is a 1.1. So this is a Joya. And right away, you can see it's a little thicker than the Delta. This is the L area. It's a 1.1 stub, but it's thicker. So even though they use the same, essentially the same nibs, or standard German nibs, this is a Joya. This is the new branding that Joya has on their nibs now. A little more elaborate, and it's got a 1.1. And this is the Miti. I should have put Joya Miti, but 1.1 stub. And as you could see, it's thicker. It's a much thicker line as compared to the Delta in any event. And I would say it's even thicker than the JOWO Steel 1.1 standard. Okay. Next on the line here is Nettuno. The Nettuno nib, here it is. It's got a beautiful N and the year, 1911, which is the model of the pen, 1.1. Again, essentially Nettuno 1911, 1.1 stub. I would say it's pretty standard. So that's the Nettuno. Okay, let's keep this as a reference on the side. I'm going to just by the way, the paper I'm using is Sanson, Tomoe River. This is Mayora. Now, this is the Mayora branding 1.1, and keep in mind that Mayora, Nettuno, Delta, it's Nino Marino, so it comes out of the same factory, but different branding. Okay, so this is the Mayora. I think they refer to this as the Alpha Amalfi. I believe it's the Alpha. 1 second. Yeah, Alpha Amalfi. This is the 1.1. Fairly standard. It's not any thicker, nor is it any thinner than the standard JOWO 1.1. Another Italian brand. Or not brand, another Mayora pen. This is the Posillipo, and this is the 1.5. So this will give us a chance to look at the Mayora Posillipo 1.5, and as you can see, the downstroke is thicker, but I would say to you that it's much thicker than the standard, so it's thicker. Than the standard 1.5. Beautiful nib. I would venture to say that it kind of very similar to the La Fenice 1.5 that we just saw. Next in line is Penlux. This, I believe they refer to it as the Masterpiece Grande. .1 stub. I would say to you it's thicker than the standard 1.1. And this is amongst my favorite in terms of how smooth they are, these Penlux JOWO nibs. Very, very nice. A very nice pen. Very nice pen. Recommended. Next in line are, just to show you the nib, this is a 1.1 Edison JOWO nib. All nibs coming out of the Edison factories are always very, very, very fine-tuned. So this is Edison Collier Candy. This is a 1.1. I can see it. It's a little bit thinner than the Penlux. I would say that this is pretty standard, but much smoother and rounder, if you will. There's less italic. This is the Edison. I've had this pen for centuries. This is the one of my first purchased stubs. As a matter of fact, 1.5 Edison in the Collier. Edison Collier Orange Swirl 1.5. A little more italic. Cursive as well, but there's a little more italic in this one. So that's Edison. Now, what have I got next? Esterbrook uses JOWO. This is the oversized ST 1.1 nib. So we've got Esterbrook, oversize ST. So 1.1. And I would say to you it's thinner than the standard. A little bit of italic feel to it as well. But again, Esterbrook has a reputation of making sure that whatever comes out from their factory is always very, very, very properly tuned. 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Now, this one is Rosetta. Again, it's a JOWO 1.5. So this is the Rosetta Coronado pen. It's got a 1.5 stub, and it's big and juicy, folks. So I would say to you that this is thicker, along the same lines as the La Fenice, and a little more italic as well. That's the Rosetta Coronado. Now, that kind of completes standard nibs from major. Well, no, actually, it's not true. We then have a series of independent pen makers, I would say to you, small guys, you know, one-man operations like London Pen Company that you see here, that use, so this is that use JOWO nibs, London. Some of them don't even Pen Company. I think this is the Christopher 13, and this is a 1.1. This is pretty standard. Other than the branding, the logo, that's it. Then I have Franklin Christoph. I'm not sure. I think these are JOWO nibs. They talk about their own nibs. I think they just get branded and they get specially grind. They've got all kinds of special grinds with Nibmeisters, etc. This is a kind of a standard cursive grind. So I would say to you, it's really more standard than anything else. This is Franklin Christoph. I'm looking at a 1.5. They also have 1.1. I would say thinner. And it's got an italic cut to it. The next nib, though, from Franklin Christoph, I'm not sure. It may come out of the factories of, but take a look at this. This is a 1.9 monster. Okay? Very double tines there. Okay? So this is the, we'll do a big one. Franklin Christoph 1.9. Very thin line. And I would say to you, it's got an italic cut. Okay, so use that for headings and when you're doing journals, but very hard to write with that on a daily basis. Next is Conklin. Conklin, I think, used to use BOCK or used to use some kind of other nibs. They've since, I think, Monteverde as well, but this is a Conklin 1898. And you could see that it now sports a JOWO nib, or their nibs are made by JOWO, but they've got that breather hole, which is kind of a Conklin branding, but it is a JOWO nib now that they use. So here we go, Conklin. This is the 1898 or 1989. Hold on. No, 1898. This is a 1.1. I would say to you it's maybe even thinner than your standard. At least it's coming. One of the problems with Conklin is they have a tendency to dry up. The nibs do. So sometimes difficult to see whether it's just a line or it's because there's no ink coming out. Okay, I'm just going to add these in the middle here because I just take a break because I'm having a hard time. This is a beautiful pen by the name of the Opus Bella. Okay. Normally it comes with different nibs, and especially the Opus 88 1.1 and 1.5 nibs. But I have this big, huge 2.3 nib on this pen. There you have it, which is just fun to use, but it was having a hard time priming. The ink wasn't really cooperating. It wasn't coming down, so to speak, but let's see if it writes. So this is the Opus Bella with a 2.3 stub. Again, you would typically use this for major headings in a, or even artists maybe. I don't find myself using it very often, but I thought I shared that with you. So that is the 2.3 stub. And I also have, and here again, I'm not sure this is primed, but this is the Opus 1.5. Again, it uses a basic cursive standard JOWO nib, but it's branded. So here's the pen, the Opus 88. So this is an Opus 88 with a 1.5 stub, very thick, thicker than the standard one. Look how thick that is. Very nice. Gonna have fun with that anyway. That kind of completes the JOWO nibs used by other brands. What I want to show you next is JOWO nibs that have a special grind. All of these come from Stilo e Stile. So this is a JOWO Joya branded fine nib, okay, on this Bella Vista. So this is a Joya fine, actually let's put the name Bella Vista, but it's a fine italic. So you get some very nice, some line variation. I hope you can see that. Very nice, by the way, because you get a thin line with some, but with some fun line variation. Similarly, this is the Parthenope Joya. Again, this is a medium, but medium italic. So this is a Joya Parthenope, and it's a medium italic. Just a little more, just a little thicker than the fine that you see right before. Similarly, this is a Ranga. Ranga comes with either JOWO. So you can see a fairly standard JOWO nib, medium, but it's been ground to a medium cursive italic. So this is a Ranga. It's the 4NC model, and it's a medium cursive italic. The difference being that it's slightly rounded as compared to the other two. So you can get a medium line with line variation, and that's where it starts to be a lot of fun. In fact, this one, I'm not sure I'll be able to write with it, but I want to show it to you. At the beginning, this is a 1.1 standard JOWO nib in Oranga pen, but that I ordered specially around, I guess that would be a right oblique, but I just can't write with it. I'm going to try. So this is, I don't know how to, I don't think I've ever written with this pen. There you go, Oranga. So I think you have to write very deliberately. Oranga. This is the red. And it's got a 1.1. I think it's right. I don't know what the use of this kind of grind would be. Like I said, I think this is the first time I write with it successfully anyway. So, but it just goes to, you can get obliques on it, okay? And some of you know how to use it. Well, all the power to you. The next one is again, Oranga pen with a 1.1, but it's got an italic cut. In other words, it's not rounded, it's just straight cut on top at the tipping. So this is a Oranga pen. I'm just going to put green, pink, forget the model. And it is a 1.1 italic. So very thin line and very thick and scratchy. So it gives you even more line variation because your side stroke is even thinner. Okay, so that's some of the special grinds that you can get, and there's so many more. I'm just showing you what I have. And more I've been mentioning in the channel that I'm bored of JOWO nibs, so you're going to be seeing those variants a lot more often from me anyway. The next pen I have is just other italic nibs from other brands that I'm not sure whether they're any standard nibs or their own nibs. For example, this is the Nemesine. It's a stub. It doesn't say. It's fairly thin stub. I think it's a BOCK, but I'm not sure. So that's Nemesine, but fairly thin. Next is Monteverde, and I think Monteverde's gone to JOWO as well. So there's your Monteverde. It's an older type of nib. Monteverde. Stub. A little more rounded. I would say it's cursive. Cursive italic anyway. Again, I'm not sure, but it looks like a BOCK. The old might be a BOCK. Then I've got a Birmingham pen with a nib, stub nib by the name of Knox. I believe these were also made by BOCK, but I'm not sure. So this is the Birmingham. I forget how you spell it. It looks like a 1.5 stub. Fairly italic. Probably a BOCK, but I'm not sure. But it is branded Knox. Okay, next I have the series of TWSBI. This is the biggest of their nibs. It's on a VAC 700. It looks like a size 6 nib. I just want to put it up against a 580 just to show you the difference in size. Now, is it because, you know, one nib goes into the pen a little more than the other? I'm not sure. Because on that 580, it looks bigger than a number 5, but smaller than a number 6. So I'm really not sure. But let's start with this TWSBI VAC 700. It is a 1.1. And it's got more of an italic look, an italic grind. Okay. And I know that TWSBI at one point was using Schmidt, then they used BOCK, now they're using JOWO. So where do these stand? I'm not sure. Be very frank with you. This is the TWSBI 580 with a 1.1. This is a little more cursive. So it's round as opposed to the VAC 700. I then have this smaller one, which is I would say, looks more like a Schmidt nib. And if you compare it to the 580, they're both 1.1s, but completely different nibs. I think the one that we see on this, so this is the TWSBI, one of my favorite, by the way. And, you know, I said there's no STUBS in Schmidt, but maybe there is, and maybe this is the exception. This is the Echo 1.1, very smooth, and maybe a Schmidt. Very round, very soft, one of my favorite nibs. Stub nibs, that is. Well, let's close that up. Okay, next, just to show you, in this COLECTION brass sport, I have a small number 5 stubbish nib. It's a 1.5 though. It's like a, you know, nib that's been cut off. So this is the COLECTION brass sport, and it's a 1.5 number 5. I don't know what it is, but it looks like a BOCK, which means that BOCK may have made number 5 stubs, but maybe just for COLECTION. Very peculiar pen, very italic, and you have to know how to write with it. Again, probably useful for writing headings, if you will. Okay, what else we got? Next, we have Narwhal, which I believe make their own nibs. So, Narwhal. And this is the original plus. And this is a 1. Doesn't say. It just says tub. I would say it's cursive italic. Got a little bit of both. So that's the Narwhal. Another in-house nib is Asvine, the C2000. They just reference it as stub. I think they put a 1.0 next to it. Very round, Okay, not as much line variation as you normally associate stubs with. The next on the list is this Moonman or Mahjong. It's a Mahjong Moonman 1.1 stub. This is the Mahjong. It's the imitation of the 360. Is it V360? I forget now. And this is the 1.1 stub. Fairly cursive, but some line variation. Not as pronounced. Next on my list, got this small number 5, I think it's a number 5 Visconti on this Van Gogh. Not a great success, but here it is nonetheless. I'm just going to write big with it because it's got a big, broad stroke. So this is the Visconti. It's a number 5, but very thick stub. Very big. Not a great writer, I got to tell you. Next on my list is this Pilot Custom 74 with a music nib, which is a form of a stub, if you will. So this is the Custom Pilot 74 with a music nib. So there is some variation. Very nice nib. Very nice nib. A lot of fun to write with. Okay, we're motoring here. We're motoring. Hope you're not bored. It just gets to show you how many stub nibs I have in my collection. The next series of pens are called Italics from Mr. Penn. I think he's since closed down. Some very nice, I think it is Churchman Prescriptor, I think this is called. But take a look at their nibs. That's the italic nib. So you can see italics on it with a medium, and it's just cut off. It's like a shot off, rifle, if you will. So this is the italics. Medium italic stub, but very thin and then very thick. Similarly, this one, just show you on there, is probably a much thinner line at the top. So this is the italics. As you could see, because they cut it off just a little bit at the tip, the line is bigger. The other one I would say is not a medium. It's probably a broad, as opposed to this is the medium italic. With some rounded corners, just slightly rounded, making it such that a little bit rounded feel, as opposed to a strictly italic feel. Next is the Italics Parsons, so it's a number 5 nib. Again, take a look at it. It's a broad because they cut it off, cut off quite a bit. So you got a very large line there. So this is the Italics Parsons. It's a number 5 nib, and it's a broad italic. Same pen, brown. This is the Italics Parsons, but it's a 1.4. So it's a number 5, 1.4, but straight cut as opposed to cursive. So this is the Italics Parsons, number 5, 1.4, but italic. Very thin line, very thick down strokes. Next for you, what have I got? Let me just take a sip of my coffee. This is the the Lamy Safari, or Lamy All-Star in this case, with a 1.1 stub with no breather hole. One of my favorites, but so this is the Lamy. I think these aluminum ones are called All-Star, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Lamy nib, and it's a stub 1.1, but very thin, with some line variation. Finer stub, if you will. So if you want a finer stub, this Lamy would give it to you. Next is I have a bunch of Metropolitans, and all my Pilot Metropolitans have a stub nib. And this is a medium, I think, a medium stub. So this is Pilot. Whoop, is it not writing? Let me just prime it. Yeah, they never write. Pilot Metropolitan, and it's a CM stub. Scratchy italic. Awful nib. But if you like scratchy, there you have it. And it's got this, old-fashioned, and I just don't, I guess I must have difficulty inking these pens, because every time I try to use one, it never writes. So now this Pilot Vanishing Point has been giving me problems lately. Let's see if it writes. But again, it's got a stub nib. It's a 14 karat gold. But it gets crusty on me. I don't know why. So this is the Pilot Vanishing Point. And it's got a 14 karat stub nib. It's got some bounce to it. So it's a fine, I would say it's a fine stub. Next is this very nicely branded Karas. Take a look at how they work their nibs. I think this is a BOCK nib. At least it looks like a BOCK nib, even a BOCK feed. So let's look at this. This is the Karas. I forget the model. And this is it just says stub, but I think is a 1.5. And it really looks like a BOCK 1.5, which is a little bit italic. That's the Karas. Next, let me just move this along. I got this Tatcha. This is a Tatcha Spectrum, but what's fun about this Tatcha is that it has a nib that says Tatcha on it. It's an MS. I think it's meant to be kind of a music nib, but it's made by Sailor, although it's branded Tatcha. So this is the Tatcha Spectrum. And they call it an MS nib. I think it's because, does it have a thicker side strokes, but it gives you some line variation. It's a little bit like a music nib. Okay, what have I got next? Oh, next I got just my old Delta nibs. This is an old steel Delta nib stub, which from what I understand were made by BOCK. So this is the Delta journal with a 1.5 stub, which I think is a BOCK. Very thick, huge line, and it does have an italic feel to it. Then another old Delta. This is in this black Lex pen that I have, the lawyer's pen I like to call it, with these, remember these fusion nibs that Delta came out with, which were a combination of gold and steel, and there's the stub, the S. So this is the Delta Black Lex. This is the fusion stub. Very nice nib. Very nice. Now, the next nibs, and let me just go to the next page, are probably my favorite. But we'll declare a winner at the end, but amongst my favorite stub nibs are these. I put this in a Leonardo Officina Positano, Momento Zero, but are these stipula steel nibs, steel stubs. The stub is nice and round, but I think it's not a 1.1, it's probably a 0.9. And that's what makes this nib really a lot of fun. So this is the stipula in the Leonardo Momento Zero, and it's probably a 0.9 stub. Very nice. Got another one under this Galen leather affiliated pen. There you have it, another stipula nib. So this is the Galen leather. I forget the name of it's a Turkish pen maker, but I put in a stipula 0.09 stub. Beautiful writer, just an absolutely, just to show you that I put those stubs in other pens, but that I do have it in one of the original stipula pens. This is an Etruria Rainbow. Again, the nib, stipula. So this is the stipula Etruria Rainbow with a 0.09 stub. Last but not least, I get two more here. Just bear with me. Oh yes, this is a Jinal 800 Mini, and I put a Delta, an old Delta Fusion number 5 nib in there, but it's a little bit, it got a lot of, see, it's leaking because the nib really is too wide for that feed, but I thought I'd show it to you anyway. So this is a Delta Fusion number 5 stub. See how thick it is? It's a little nib, but man, does it put a lot of ink. So again, you would use it for titles or for, headings. And last but not least, the last one, this is a Santini, and it's got what they call a Superflex stub nib. A little more rounded than stubbish, if you will, and it always kind of false starts on me, but we'll see. Okay, here we go. Santini, they call it super, now see here, Super Flex Stub, and it does have some stub qualities, but more round than anything else. There you have it. So that kind of completes all of the stub pins that I have in my collection. I hope that was useful. So just give me a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back and I'll let you know which ones are my favorite in descending order. Not so. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 pens. My least favorite out of these 7, but top 7, is this Delta. So number 7 is the Delta Fusion nib. Very nice. Number 6 is this Twisby Eco stub. Very nice. What is it? 1.1. Very smooth. So we've done 2. Next on my list is this number 5. I would say the Edison JOWO tuned nibs. Very nice. Never fails. Always very, very nice. After that, I would go with this Mayora number 4. Is this Mayora JOWO 1.5 stub. Very nice. Number 3 is this Penlux. And this is a JOWO, but so smooth. 1.1 stub. Number 2, I would go with my Stipula. And that's a 0.09 stub. Now, for an everyday writer, this would probably be my number 1. Okay? But for fun and for writing experience, and these pens are not my favorite, but it would definitely be this Leonardo La Fenice 1.5, huge stub. Very nice. You can't write with this thing everywhere, but very nice nib, as it turns out. So those are my favorite. Okay, so we're all done. I thought I'd leave you with just an overhead shot of all the pens that we just looked at. This is my stub nib collection, or at least all the stubs I have in my collection are all here. The nibs are just duplicates that I have in a box somewhere. But that's it. I hope that was useful. Take care, folks. Enjoy your pens and lots of fountain pen therapy. Take care. Ciao.